I decided to buy some coloured acrylic paint pens and give them a go. I have got some paint pens, but they're just in neutral colours, black and cream and grey, and I use them for working on top of my paintings to put detail in and to make some nice mark making and expressive lines. I'll show you an example of that here. So I've never bought any coloured ones, and I thought it would be nice to give them a try. So this isn't a sponsored video. I've bought these myself off Amazon now, and I will link them down below in the description if you wanted to have a try with these yourself. What attracted me to them was really the price. They were quite reasonable. There's 18 in here, and it says for painting, calligraphy and crafts, vibrant colours with endless possibilities. So the water-based, non-toxic. And also it says here they've got tweezer and stencils included, and the tweezer is for moving the tips, because they come with tips that we can move around and have in two different ways. So we'll have a look at that as well. So we'll try them on a few different surfaces. I'll try them on paper and on glass and on some ceramics and see how we get on. So first of all, I'll have a look at them and see how we can get into this packaging. Now I've got rid of that cellophane and packaging, we can see what lovely colours we've got here. So it came with these stencils. I think there's just two in there. Let me have a look. Oh, they come out quite easily. Pop that out of the way. So there's two nice flower shaped stencils there. I have to be honest, I don't use stencils for anything. I prefer drawing. I like to draw myself, so I very rarely would use a stencil, but that's nice if you do like that kind of thing that they came with it. So I'll pop those out of the way. These are the spare tips. So obviously these are a chisel tip on them, so you can swap them over with the ones that are there, and there's the little tweezers that came with those. So I'll just pop those to the side as well, and we'll have a look at the colours, which are rather pretty, aren't they? So we've got a lot of nice bright colours here. We've also got the neutrals as well. So we do have a grey, and we have a black, and is this a white one here? Yeah, and we have a white, so they're also going to be quite handy. So let's just see, we'll move them into kind of colour zones. We've got the yellows there, that's like a nice creamy peach colour. Let's see where it says what the colours are, if it has it actually written on. Doesn't appear to. So that would make it interesting if you wanted to order. I don't know if you can order single colours. I was just looking to see if there was a colour written on, but there doesn't appear to be a number or anything on there. So we've got creams, we've got yellows, so orange, we'll go through to red, and then pinks and mauves. That's a rather nice bright pink there. And then we go on to these lovely mauves, through to your blues. So two blues, two greens, three greens actually, that's a green as well, isn't it? That's like a sagey colour, a brown, grey, black and white. So we've got a really nice mixed range of colours there that are going to be quite handy. So to begin with, I think we should test out this changing of the nibs and see how easy that is to do. So if you can see there, they come with a round nib in. I'm not sure if the camera's auto-focusing on that or not, but they come with this nice round one. And obviously the tweezers, I don't think you need them. You could do that with your hand, couldn't you? But presumably it stops them getting dirty or anything. And you just pop your other one in. So that seems very straightforward. So to make them work, I'm just going to get a piece of scrap paper. To make them work, obviously to begin with, we're going to need to give them a good shake, like any other pens like this, and get them going by pumping them up and down. And you can see the paint starting to flow down the nib. A few more pumps and it's coming further down. I'm hoping the camera's auto-focusing on that, but you can see the pinks there now, nearly at the bottom and starting to flow. So isn't that a beautiful colour? Really, really bright. So the next thing to do now is give these a go on the various surfaces. So I wanted to do something nice and bright because they were lovely bright colours. So I'm going to do a strelitzia flower, otherwise known as a bird of paradise. So I've sketched one out here in pencil, and I'm going to fill that in using some bright colours, and then I'm going to come back and have a go on some ceramic and some glass. And then what I think we need to do is to let the ceramic and glass dry and see how they wash and how, you know, they're going to stay on there. So I'll do this first, see how I get on, I think I might change my nibs to the chisel, because the thing with a chisel is you can get a finer line with the edge of it, and then this thicker colour where you can easily get lots of colour down. So it's probably, for me, an easier one to work with than the round. So I'll perhaps start by choosing my colours and then changing the nibs on those. So I've made a mistake here. I've tried to use these on cartridge paper, and as you can see, it's lifting the paper up there because of course it's paint. So it's spoiling the paper. This paper's not made for paint, it's a cartridge paper. So I'm going to swap over. I'll do another sketch and I'll do it on some either mixed media paper or a watercolour paper. So let's try again. This is a watercolour paper. It's an SAA practice paper and it's £140 not pressed. I'm not going to do a pencil sketch now. I've just changed my mind. I'm going to just use these and draw it as it is, hopefully. Because if you notice, the pencil was showing through. It wasn't covering it. So let's start again. So it won't be as good a drawing perhaps, because I'm just going to do this freehand. And off I go with this Strelitzia. Okay, so I'm going to leave that at that. I didn't leave enough paper to go over here. That's what happens when you don't do a sketch first, but it gave us an idea of how those pens work. So if you look, I don't know if you can see, but here in one or two places, like on the previous paper, it's left kind of fibrous bits, and I'm not entirely sure if that is the paper lifting up or if that's the way the two colours are working together, or if that's some little bits that are left off the nib. It's hard to see it, but it's just like it's, I don't know, a little bit of fibre in there somewhere. So whether it is that paper lifting up, I am not entirely sure. It says quick drying on them, but then it doesn't dry immediately. Obviously I've smudged it here with my hand. I have my hand, you can see, hand lead on there when I was doing up here. So obviously you'd need to watch for that. Lovely colours. I really do like the colours. Nice and bright. And I can see how they could be very useful. You can get some nice lines with them. Like I say, you can use the edge of them to get quite a fine line if you wanted to. They're very expressive, they're very quick. So yeah, if I was doing this again, I would probably let each colour dry a bit more before I did the next layer, and build it up that way. You can go on top with the colours, but if it's white, it's the white one's slightly transparent. So you can see here I've gone over with the white, but the green's still coming through, and the same here. So you probably couldn't get the white completely back if you'd made a mistake by covering it, so bear that in mind. But with the darker colours, you could cover one of the lighter colours with a darker colour. Okay, so what I'm going to go and do now is get some glass and get some ceramic and have a go on those and see how well they last. Okay, so I've got a little white jug and I'm going to pop on that a very sunny flower. So we'll start with the centre. It's quite difficult because it's the jug itself is shaped in, so it's not flat to work on. So this is going to be quite rustic and naive, but hopefully nice and bright. So the centre of our flower with that nice bright yellow, and let's put some pink, that shocking pink petals on it. So very quick to use if you're doing craft projects, if you had some of these, something like this, or cups or whatever, because of the kind of thing you can pick up quite cheaply, especially teacups that people don't really use anymore. If you had a few white ones or some mugs, quite a nice little craft project to do a few matching. So very naive. And you can see actually, well you might not be able to see, but I can see that that yellow is actually flowing a little bit into the pink. So as I said before, they don't dry immediately. So again, you might want to leave them to dry before you do the next colour. But I'm not going to worry about that. Nice pale green stem there with a bit of a leaf shape there. And there we go. And I think I will leave that to completely dry and then give it a rinse in the sink and see how we go on with that. So it wants leaving for a couple of hours, I would think, just to make sure that it is actually dry. I mean, it does say quick drying and you can see it's drying already. But I'll leave that to one side and we'll have a go on some glass. So this is a little a pudding dish, you know, the type that come with, I think this actually had a Toblerone cheesecake in, which was rather tasty. So we'll do another flower, I think, and we'll do a different colour. I'll do an orange centre. This is a really nice colour. I wish they did have the colours written on them, because this is a lovely sort of halfway between orange and cream. Rather pretty. I'll just do one, but you could do them all the way around, or you could do like you could do a little garland all the way around with some leaves or something. So we won't do another pink flower. Let's choose a different colour. We'll use the brighter orange for the petals and do more rounded petals. Probably done the middle centre a bit big in comparison to the petals there. Doesn't matter. And you could do lots of different colours all the way around. You could do the same colour all the way around. There's all sorts of things you could do with this. You could put your name on the pot. It could be a little trinket pot on the side. Have one each so that you've all got your little bits and bobs in there. Just pop that back on. And again, I'll get that darker green. In fact, I'll block that in. Just going to leave it open, but I'll block that in. Okay, so again, I'll leave that to dry and see how we get on with rinsing it under the tap afterwards, or washing it and seeing if those colours come off. And then I think that's about it. So what else did it say on here? It did say, it says somewhere what you can use it on. It's got tips on there to deal with clogging. It doesn't say, it did say somewhere. Oh, here we are. Paper, which we've tried. Canvas we haven't tried, but you know, I'm assuming that's similar to working on paper. Ceramics, plastics, cloth. So that's something else we could have tried. Wood, metal and glass. I'm actually just wondering if I've got some cloth somewhere. I might go and get a piece of cloth and see if we can have a go on that. So just have a go in the corner of this fabric. It's got quite a thin fabric, like a linen. Not entirely sure where it came from. I think it came as some kind of wrapping for something that I bought, and I've just popped it to one side thinking it might come in handy. Again, I don't know if you can see, you probably won't be able to see, but there's little bits of fibres and they're not off the cloth. Again, I think they're off these nibs, you know, or it's the way that the paint's drying. It's not a massive problem, but especially considering the price of these pens. They were very inexpensive. Actually, if you look, can you see? That tip there doesn't look great, does it? Let's try and get rid of that. Just let me show you. Can you see a bit of the tips come off there? So I think that's what's causing these little bits of fibres that I'm finding. So when I did the first one, it wasn't my paper that was the problem. So you may be able to use them on cartridge paper. I said you couldn't, but I think it was these tips, which, if that's the case, it's a bit of a shame really, because some of the colours are okay and some aren't, and you can see it there. But at less than £1 a pen, I'm perhaps thinking, what should we expect? So I'll leave that to dry and see how that dries. See if it's gone through. It's not gone through too much onto the other side, it has a little bit. But we'll leave that to dry. That's quite pretty, isn't it, on the white? So with that problem of the nibs, these aren't really something you'd want to use in some work that you're perhaps going to be selling in your best work. I think probably just use them for crafting and for sketching and for having a bit of fun on things like this. Because obviously the nibs on this kind of very smooth surface are going to work better than they are on one that's got some texture in like that. So the final thing I was going to do was plastic, so let's have a look. I won't do the wood today. Again, let's put a pink centre on a flower. It's a bit of a messy pot this, it's just a plastic drinking cup that probably needs a bit of a wash. And we'll do some red petals. Again, you've not got that problem now because it's such a smooth surface. The nib isn't leaving those fibres behind. So it's a bit of a shame that, but that's definitely what I think it is. And this flower looks like a 2-year-old's done it, but that's fine. We're just practicing to see how they dry and how they cover, and the colour covers better on a flat surface like this than it does on the you know, on the paper and on the cloth there. So these, I think they're perhaps nicer for this kind of thing than they are for actually doing on the paper. So there you are. You could, you know, for a children's party, put all the names on the cups, put a little flower on, whatever. They'd be quite handy for that kind of thing. I would not recommend you give these to small children because of the way the nibs come out. The lids haven't got any holes in, obviously, because you don't want the paint drying out. So that's a choking hazard. That's a choking hazard, but also the nib is a choking hazard. So really wouldn't give these to small children, and it does say that on them. But for older children and for teenagers, I think these would be really good craft projects, especially things like this. Like I said, they could make their own personalised cups and mugs and things. With whatever they wanted to put on there, and you can see that's drying already on the glass, and that looks quite nice. Okay, so I'll come back in a couple of hours when those have dried, and I'll give them a rinse and let you know how I get on. To conclude, I would really say that these pens come into the category of cheap and cheerful. You can't deny that they are great colour and great fun for the amount of money that they cost. However, I wouldn't be using them in anything special, any fine detail, anything I was really particular about. They wouldn't be for that. They were just more of a fun craft project, maybe doing some colourful sketches here on YouTube and that kind of thing. Now, I have a confession to make. I didn't read the instructions, and this is something I never do. I never read instructions for anything. Quite famous for it in my family. So if we turn it over here, it says tips for curing the paint on ceramic. Once paint is completely dry, bake the painted object in the oven for an hour. I didn't do that, I just washed my jug, and this is what happened, it all came off. So I'll know next time that you're supposed to bake it, and then we'll see how we go on with that. So good fun for little craft projects, especially for older children, like I said before, because they're such pretty colours. We've got really nice bright colours, and we can't be not cheered up by those lovely bright colours. This picture on here is a bit deceiving because you couldn't get that detail with those nibs. I really don't feel that you could, unless you did it on a really big scale and zoomed it down again. There's no way you could get into those little in that detail with those nibs, I don't think. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. Like I say, the link is down below in the description. You've heard everything I've got to say about them. I wouldn't use them for fine work, but I would buy them for the fun of the bright colours. Yeah. Okay, so thank you for watching. As I said before, this video wasn't sponsored. I just fancied getting these nice bright colours. But if you do have anything you'd like me to try out, then, you know, I'll do that for you. And I'll see you again soon with more tutorials and demonstrations. Bye bye for now.